an old favourite from my youth, featuring the greatest rock and roll drummer of all time, John Bonham. Looks a little bit dusty to me, this. It might be a bit scratchy, let's see. Let's just see how good this archive keeps its records. I remember being given that on my 16th birthday. Fantastic album. I still listen to this record a lot.
Yeah.
It sounds amazing.
Those albums in vinyl?
Yeah,
the one you
I never got rid of any of my vinyl, very few. I never download, or the only time I download things is if I'm away somewhere and I want to hear a specific track, and it's brilliant for that, you know. But if I want to keep something, then I'm going to buy the vinyl. Okay, well, I mean, I'm not even going to flick through to start off with. I'm just going to take this out because this is the place to start.
T-Rex.
Yeah, because this band and this album was what got me into music in the first place. I mean, I grew up listening to music because my mum and dad were musical, but they just listened to opera, and that was all I heard in my first few years growing up. And I was like, okay, well, it was nice to me. And then I remember when I was about 11 or 12, on Top of the Pops, seeing T-Rex playing Jeepster from this album, and you know, a little light went on, and I suddenly thought, that's my kind of music.
So the music you were listening as a teenager still influences your work?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, when you know, I just went for it for whatever reason, you know, like you do as a kid, you instinctively relate to some things, and I find it quite amazing that the thing I related to as a 12-year-old, I still go back to and use as one of my main touchstones when I'm making records.
For you, for you.
That's Cooper.
Classic one.
Yeah. Super, one of my first musical loves.
Yeah.
You know what? Funny enough, I just dug out the Billion Dollar Babies album a couple of weeks ago because I wanted to listen to one particular track.
It's kind of a way to get Françoise Hardy and Alice Cooper.
I was thinking that's an odd combination, isn't it? I'm gonna have trouble with your filing system, I can tell. This is another record that had an absolutely massive effect on my musical life. Captain Beefheart's probably my all-time favourite musician. You know, I just think, or you know, artist, I should say. He was a non-musician in many ways. But this was the first album of his that I heard, and I remember it really clearly because I was in the van with the keyboard player of my first band, and he'd just been given a tape, an advance copy of this album, because a friend of his worked at Virgin Records, and he turned to me and said, "You got to hear this. It's the worst thing you've ever heard." Okay. And they stuck it in the van tape machine, and I listened to it. I was like, "That is the weirdest thing I've ever heard, but it's certainly not the worst thing I've ever heard." So he said, "Well, have it," and literally blew my mind. Okay, I'm going to play a track called Sue Egypt. I reckon it's going to be around there.
Great.
Chills quick you, voices pick you, crows hex you. Be like some post-Amavian, wizard kiss and all be gone.
And then when I bought the record, because obviously the tape wasn't enough and it didn't have the picture, I just looked at those guys and thought, wow, what a weird-looking bunch of guys, you know, making this crazy music. And then, you know, amazing is my life has turned out two of these guys have become very good friends, and I've long-time collaborator with one of them. So it's incredible.
I think of all of those people that ride on my bones, that nobody hears, that nobody sees, that nobody knows. Sue Egypt! Sue Egypt!
One of my great heroes, a big influence on everybody that writes film music, I think. And now how could he not be? They're so amazing. Let's do a bit of film music.
All right.
And let's start with John Barry. I mean, he wrote a lot of really great scores. Obviously, all the Bond stuff, which was the first film music that had an effect on me. You know, it was the first time I remember thinking, "Oh, music in films, it sounds cool." It's a classic John Barry intervals, musical intervals, and this is so obviously him. It's great when you can be, you can have a sort of like, he almost has signature intervals, which is. I'm not sure that I can think of anybody else that has that. This is an interesting album.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, obviously I'm a huge Neil Young fan, and I really, really love this album. It's so raw. Really nice sound to it, and it's like full of mistakes, which is great, you know, and they're just...
And the guy is still doing it.
Yeah, one of the few really who's, I think, you know, it's really important that when you get to my age, you see other artists who are older than you still making really good music.
Wall of Voodoo.
Yeah, Wall of Voodoo. There aren't very many records that were made in the 80s that I still listen to. The production values for me have dated really horribly, and there are very few things that have survived. This is one of them, I feel, and it is absolutely an 80s record, but it works because it had everything that it took all those kind of horrible, weird sort of drum machines and made them sound incredibly cool in a really good way, and the keyboards, they were very 80s keyboards, but what they were doing with them was kind of gritty and dirty rather than trying to be sweet and I don't know, orchestral or whatever, you know, whatever people were trying to do. This record still really works for me. Richard Mazda, who produced this album, was one of the first people to take an interest in what I was doing in my first early band, Automatic Romini, and he produced, you know, some of the first demos that we did. Wow, that looks fantastic. Really nice to see. I've never seen this.
No, me neither.
Is it two copies of the same one? 127 it is. This might slip one in my bag. A few records here that I don't know that I'm really curious to hear. The Reverend Gary Davis. You see, I don't know this album, but looking at it makes me think that I would want to know it. So this is for my own enjoyment. Let's see if I'm right or not. Blind Gary Davis, pure Harlem street singer. Okay, 12 Gates to the City. Let's try this.
Oh, what a beautiful city. Oh, what a beautiful
That sounded really good. Well, it's funny because I'm not, I'm not a man of faith, but I really like a lot of gospel music, and I'm kind of fascinated in a way by that sort of. I'm almost fascinated by people that do have faith, because it seems so peculiar to me in many ways, so sort of like an odd superstition, and probably this is a good time. I noticed in here, there was a record that I was involved in with a man of faith. I would like to say that I don't have a copy of this vinyl album, even though I produced it, which is a little bit unfair, isn't it? Really, really interesting record to work on it. I'm always struck by whenever I'm asked to sort of compile a list of my favourite albums. They often end up being, they're heavily weighted in that sort of 1972, 73, 71 sort of sound, and I'm absolutely sure it's just the sound. It's because of the sound of those things.
It's the way you're trained to work when you're recording.
It was for me. I mean, I started off working on tape, absolutely, and I still do whenever I can. There's a song called "It Was Not Rachel." It's a new one, so I might forget the chords halfway through. If it was an old one, I'd forget the chords anyway, so probably not going to make any difference. It was not Rachel who poured my coffee from under the bridge. Came a gull and then a swan, so British, incongruous. In a little Los Angeles, did we embrace? That embraces all and strangles with affection. Lies and affectation. Lies as affectation. Lies and affectation.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.